Right now, somewhere in your house, there is a cabinet you keep going back to. You tell yourself it's just a snack. You tell yourself you're not even that hungry, but your hand goes back anyway. The real answer is far stranger than willpower or habit. Your cravings are not a personal flaw. They are a message from people who died thousands of years before writing existed. You have probably heard that ancient humans ate berries, roots, and the occasional mammoth steak. That picture is mostly wrong. It is too simple, too clean, and it hides something important about why your body wants what it wants today. Start with the word hunter-gatherer. It sounds balanced, like a 50-50 split between chasing animals and picking plants. It wasn't. For most human groups, gathering did the heavy lifting. Anthropologist Catherine Milton, who spent decades studying the diets of primates and traditional human societies, found that plant foods often made up the majority of daily calories in foraging populations. Meat was valuable. Meat was exciting. But meat was unreliable. You could not build a civilization on luck. So what were your ancestors actually eating? Tubers, roots, wild greens, nuts that had to be cracked open with rocks, insects more often than most documentaries admit, fruit when it was in season, which was rare enough that finding a ripe patch felt like winning something. Every single one of these foods took effort. Nothing arrived pre-washed. Nothing arrived in a bag. Here is the part that changes everything. Your brain does not know the difference between a wild fig your ancestor found after hours of searching and a candy bar sitting on a shelf under fluorescent lights. Both trigger the exact same reward chemistry. Sugar was rare for nearly the entire history of your species. When your ancestors found something sweet, their brains flooded with dopamine because sweetness meant calories, and calories meant survival. That reaction never got the memo that sugar is now sitting in every gas station in the world. This is where things get genuinely strange. Cooking changed the story. Harvard biological anthropologist Richard Wrangham argues that cooking may be one of the most important events in human evolution. Cooked food is easier to digest. It delivers more usable energy for less chewing time. Wrangham's research suggests that once early humans started cooking regularly, their guts could shrink and their brains could grow because digestion stopped eating up so much of the body's energy budget. Think about that for a second. The invention of fire over food might be part of the reason you're capable of reading this sentence right now. But cooking also did something sneakier. It made food taste better than nature ever intended it to. Roasted meat, charred roots. Once you introduce heat, flavor becomes a tool, not just a byproduct. And tools can be used on purpose. Your ancestors were not eating for pleasure the way you might order dessert. They were eating for survival math. Every bite had to justify the energy spent finding it. This is where fat enters the picture, and where your modern cravings start making a lot more sense. Fat was gold, not metaphorically, nutritionally. A gram of fat holds more than double the calories of a gram of protein or carbohydrate. For a body that never knew when the next meal was coming, fat was the most efficient thing you could possibly put in your mouth. Bone marrow, organ meat, fatty fish when a group lived near water. These were prized foods, sometimes reserved for the most respected members of a group. So when you find yourself craving something rich and fatty on a stressful day, you are not weak. You are running very old software. Now here's a question worth sitting with. If your ancestors were eating mostly plants, why do modern diet trends obsess so heavily over meat? Part of the answer is cultural, part of it is marketing, but part of it comes from real archaeological evidence too. Cut marks on ancient animal bones, butchery sites scattered across old riverbeds. Meat clearly mattered. It just wasn't the daily default most people imagine. Anthropologist Herman Pontzer, who studies energy expenditure in modern hunter-gatherer populations like the Hadza in Tanzania, found something that surprised a lot of researchers. Despite walking miles every day and doing intense physical labor to find food, The Hadza burn roughly the same total daily calories as people living sedentary lives in wealthy countries. Their bodies simply adapted their energy use around activity levels, keeping overall expenditure strikingly stable. It's not that movement doesn't matter. It's that the human body is far better at balancing its own energy budget than most modern diet advice gives it credit for. Which brings you back to that cabinet in your house. That craving isn't random. It is your body performing an ancient calculation, checking whether this food is worth the effort, the way it always has. The problem is the environment changed dramatically, and the calculation didn't get an update. For nearly all of human history, food was scarce, unpredictable, and expensive in terms of energy spent finding it. Your brain evolved a simple rule. When you find something calorie dense, eat as much of it as you can, because who knows when the next opportunity will come. That rule kept your ancestors alive through droughts, harsh winters, and lean seasons. Today, that same rule is surrounded by convenience stores open 24 hours a day. Nothing is scarce. Nothing requires tracking, digging, or waiting for a season. And your ancient brain is still operating as if scarcity could strike at any moment. This mismatch has a name among researchers who study human evolution and modern disease: evolutionary mismatch. The idea is simple. Your body was built by an environment that no longer exists. The instincts that once kept your ancestors alive are the exact same instincts that now push you toward foods your body doesn't actually need in surplus. Consider salt. In the ancient world, salt was precious enough that entire trade routes existed just to move it. Your body developed a strong drive to seek it out because losing too much salt through sweat or injury could be dangerous. Now, salt sits on every table for free, and that same ancient drive can push you toward foods that are salted well beyond what your body requires. Or consider fruit. A piece of fruit today has been selectively bred over thousands of years to be sweeter, larger, and easier to eat than anything your distant ancestors would have found in the wild. Wild fruit was often small, fibrous, and only mildly sweet. Modern fruit is closer to candy than most people realize, and yet your brain still treats it as the healthy reward it always was. None of this means ancient humans had it right and modern humans have it wrong. Life for early foragers was often difficult. Food insecurity was real. Seasons of scarcity could be brutal. This isn't a story about a lost paradise of perfect eating. It's a story about mismatch, not about moral failure. Understanding where a craving comes from changes how it feels. That pull towards something sweet after a stressful meeting isn't a character flaw. It's a survival strategy, running exactly as designed, just in the wrong century. Your ancestors spent hours each day just finding enough calories to stay alive. You can find more calories than you need in under 60 seconds. That is not a small change. That is one of the fastest shifts in the entire history of biology, and your body is still catching up to it. So the next time you feel that pull toward the cabinet, toward the vending machine, toward the second, helping you didn't quite need, remember what's actually happening. It isn't just a craving. It's a signal being sent by people who never saw a supermarket, a signal that once meant the difference between surviving winter and not. Right now, somewhere in your house, there is a cabinet you keep going back to, and every single time you do, you are not just reaching for food. You are answering a message that has been traveling toward you for a very long time,